Do you know, I've been thinking for a very, very long time about this new law that's been put in.
The unanimous decision of this court is that the terms woman and sex in the Equality Act 2010 refer to a biological woman and biological sex.
Yeah, that one. And I'm going to be honest, the only people I feel sorry for right now are those who are genuinely intersex. For those of you who don't know, intersex means that you can be born with both genders. You know, because your gender is either male or female. And sex, I presume, is mostly sexuality rather than gender, which is meant to be fixed. And, you know, as we know, it's not quite like that. I suppose the biggest issue when it comes to transgenderism is the feeling that their struggles are not actually being recognised throughout this whole thing, and the fear that once this has gone through, then what will be next, you know? So Alexis Blake, for example.
Anyway, if you don't know what goes into transition, it's not just a switch that we flip. I had to be legally diagnosed with gender dysphoria. I had to go through a psychological evaluation. I have had 8 surgeries. I had to prove myself time and time again to get my gender recognition certificate, which I got earlier on this year. To now be told that I'm not legally recognised as a woman. I get married this summer. Sorry to make it about me.
As you can see, it takes quite a lot to become a transgendered person, but I'm hoping that if you are transgendered, either female to male or male to female, that you don't consider yourself as a woman, but a proud trans woman, because the word trans shouldn't be really used in a derogatory manner, because then it just creates this mental effect where it's almost as though people are saying it's bad to be a trans person. And I don't believe that helps anyone, you know? I really, really don't. And as theologians have also said, that sometimes they too, you know, have gaps in their provisions.
Voiceover off.
Hi, welcome. Today on Ask a Pastor.
Voiceover on. Landscape.
Colombo, my friend and
Home button to the
Orchard
right.
Hill.
YouTube.
George,
Video
one of our
player.
life stage
Button.
pastors.
Hey,
Welcome,
voiceover
George.
off.
Today we have several questions we'd love to address. So George, the first question is long and is in some ways challenging, in other ways maybe not challenging. Probably depends where somebody sits on the issue. Here's how the question reads. There are a lot of controversy in the church. I think they mean there is a lot of controversy in the church over transgender individuals. Scripture seems clear that God made us male and female in the image of God. However, what does the Bible say, or would Christian counsel say to an individual who's born intersex, having both male and female parts? Would God consider a person born intersex male or female? Help us think about intersex, which is different from transgender, individuals, and how the Bible sees that and what we need to consider with that.
Well, if you don't mind, I'm just going to look at this question
Absolutely.
in the sense that, yeah, Scripture seems clear that God made us male and female. The Scriptures are clear in the book of Genesis on that topic. However, what does the Bible say would be the counsel to an individual who is born intersex, having both male and female parts? I would say that, at least to begin the conversation, is that it's pretty clear that there is male and female. And I think the idea, perhaps, of going down the road of transgender and fitting transgender into the idea of intersex almost begins to assume that intersex means that it would be an idea of extra sex, that there would be, if there's more than 2 sexes because of the idea of intersex, that there's this whole broad spectrum of sexes. And I think biologically we even know that clearly is just not the case.
Right. And what's insightful about this
Phenomena, I think it goes back to the 40s or 50s when that became a real concept. But I think when we confront somebody, we need to be really careful to love them, especially if parents have a child who is born with a condition, that we ought to be very caring. I think sometimes the church in these circumstances just waves a hand and says that it is what it is. God made them male and female, and people can walk away with struggles that we have not really carefully cared for pastorally.
Especially emotionally, they do have gaps in their provisions.
It would be so funny if autistic people...
Hi, my name's Samuel Moyer Smith. I'm a trans man and PhD expert in trans health and medicine, specifically how biological sex, gender, and trans identities are understood and legitimated in medicine and science. And here are my thoughts on yesterday's Supreme Court ruling. Now, the overarching takeaway for me in the aftermath of this legislation has been that no one is talking specifically about how biological sex is being defined. Now, defining biological sex by chromosomes is almost redundant, because the way that gender and sex is going to be read is by the physical and physiological attributes of the body that is placed in front of them. And I want to return to...
So here's my solution to this whole toileting issue. Why not just use disabled toilets? Okay? Why don't we just say that transgendered people and intersex people should use disabled toilets? Because then nobody's upsetting or hurting anyone.